Remus numero 7. Number 7. A bourbon that folks really look forward to each and every year is the Remus Repeal Reserve from Ross & Squibb. This is release number 7. Mixed reactions to this one. Today, we review it, compare it to some previous batches. I might even throw a little bit of Wild Turkey Rare Breed in the mix just to see how it holds up. Let's break it down. Stay tuned. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, help grow the channel for 2023. So, for a long time now, Ross & Squibb, formerly MGP, whether consumers knew it or not, has made some of the best bourbons on the market, using a variety of mash bills, proof points, and then you have just a ton of NDPs or non-distilling producers sourcing their barrels in droves. But the Remus series has helped MGP truly have something of their own. Most notably, it's been the Remus Repeal Reserve series that has, pretty much carried that torch. Over the last several years, bourbon lovers have been largely critical of each release, especially the current releases versus the, first few releases. They have always been 100 proof, but the mix of proportions and ages of those bourbons that make up Remus Repeal Reserve each year are usually the main focus. All right, well, I'm gonna get this poured here quick. Got it past the shoulder recently, so should be perfectly opened up for the review here. Now, last year, the 6th release was seen, for the most part, as a bit of a disappointment. But remember, it was coming off of release number 5 back in 2021 that included some bourbons that were 13 to 16 years old. Now, most folks didn't know that was a special 5-year anniversary blend that ended up being a huge favorite that year. For some folks, it was their bourbon of the year. But let's talk about Remus 7. So what's in Remus Repeal 7? So the blend components are here on the screen. You could take a look. It's a lot to look at, a lot of percentages, a lot of different ages, different years. But long story short, it's mostly 9 and 10-year-old bourbon from 2 of MGP's high rye mash bills with a dash of 16-year-old whiskey to, I would guess, just add some complexity, maybe a little bit more oak flavor to it. Now, other than batch 5, this has been the general type of blend we have seen in previous years. And just like those previous years, it's bottled at 100 proof and now retails for about $100. All right, let's dive right in because we're gonna get into the comparisons here soon. So this batch has definitely opened up for the better. When I first cracked it open, I wasn't too impressed, but the nose on this is actually what you would typically find in MGP, I think. Your caramels, your brown sugars. You get that little hint of kind of a cherry syrup in here. It's very citrusy. I always get a lot of citrus in MGP. There is some good oak in here too. I think that little hint of 16-year-old bourbon does do the trick. However, when I first opened this, the nose was pretty faint. It took some time for it to open up here a little bit, and definitely getting it past the shoulder, I think, has done definitely some good to it. I mean, still nothing like punch you in the face, very just, atypical MGP that I'm getting here, especially for some of the other Remuses I've had. But yeah, just good, well-rounded, balanced nose. All right, here we go. So first sip, man, it's really changed for me from the first pour I had. This has gotten really chocolate cherry, very chocolate cherry cordial. That citrus is still there. A little bit of oak on the back end too. Wow, it's really chocolate cherry for me. This is my first pour I'm having today, so it's really hitting me, with cherry cordial, chocolate covered cherries, however you want to say it. Wow, I just got like a maltiness to it, almost kind of like what are those candies? Whoppers, kind of like a Whopper vibe to it, where it's like the chocolate covered malt balls. I think I got a little bit of that going on in it as well. So it's very, to me, chocolate forward for the most part. Good spice on it. MGP with those high rye mash bills, you're gonna get some good spice here. Good, nice little bit of pepperiness on the back end of it. A little bit oaky too, but just enough. It doesn't overpower with the oak. Remember, there's only 6% of that 16-year-old bourbon is in here in this blend. Yeah, I'm surprised I'm getting how much the maltiness that I'm picking up in it. I don't know if that's going to be a something that stays here, but there is a malt Whoppers candy type of vibe that I'm getting on this. Also get a little bit of like that typical gingerbread note I think you get with MGP as well. But for the most part, chocolate cherry, I definitely get like that Whoppers note to it. I think it more leans heavily on the chocolate type note of it. Good spice, a little bit drying on the back end from the finish, but for the most part, it's a solid blend. It's got good flavors. The one thing I will say that I'm not digging about it is it seems thin on the palate. It doesn't have that viscosity that I really think a Remus should have. It's missing a little bit of that texture that I want from a Remus, especially for $100 from MGP. All right, let's do a couple of comparisons, and this should be interesting.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
All right, so we have a fun little lineup here. I have Remus number 4, number 6, and number 7. I'm not going to compare it to number 5 because I think the comparison is just unfair knowing those ages in that bottle. So if everyone's wondering if it's as good as 5, it's not going to be as good as 5. I think what we have to do is wait for Remus Repeal to come out in its 10th year. So 3 more years. When it hits that 10-year anniversary, we could say we could see something close to what number 5 was, maybe even exceed it. But time will tell. We have a whole 3 years to figure that out. So, all right, let's try number 4. Now, number 4 to me has probably been my favorite batch outside of 5 for the Remus Repeal series. 3 was also really good, but I think there's something about 4 that I love. So, yeah, so 4 to me has more of a dense complexity to it. I'm talking like 7, I said brown sugar, but this is like really dark caramelized brown sugar, like those extra sweet flavors. That cherry note is there too, but it's more like a cherry cola syrup. Absolutely love number 4. Let's try number 4 again. What number 4 also has is the viscosity, the texture that I'm looking for in a Remus. It's really good. It's number 4 for me has always been, again, aside from number 5, kind of like my top tier Remus personally. Absolutely love number 4. All right, let's go to number 6, which was just last year. So 6 for me, even now, I'm not really getting much off the nose. It's pretty muted to me. Yeah, like 4 just jumps out of the glass. 7 to me even jumps out of the glass more. But 6, I don't know. I feel like I get a little bit more of like a mustiness on 6. Plus on top of that, there's some oak there. You got your sweet flavors, you got your caramels and your brown sugars. I mean, maybe that faint citrus flavor I normally get from MGP is here, but it's not much. 6 to me is okay, but it just runs very flat. There's nothing that jumps out flavor-wise on the palate. It just kind of, I don't know, it just stays very even keel, which is fine. I mean, maybe some people like that. Maybe some people want to just have it just an easy sipper, and I think that's what it is. But I always look for a specific like part of the bourbon that really jumps out of the glass. 6 to me is just kind of flat. It's okay, but it's just flat. All right, to 7 now. Now 7 coming off of 6, I would actually argue that 6 and 4 both have better textures than 7 does. 7 is just coming off really thin to me. I like the flavors in 7 over 6. That's definitely for sure. So I would give 7 kind of the nod for that. I think 7 is definitely better than 6. It's definitely not better than 4 though. Man, 7 is just comes off super thin. It's just gotten more citrusy. Again, that maltiness is there for number 7. 7's okay. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Remember, this is $100. So now I'm gonna throw Rare Breed in the mix because I think Rare Breed is probably the best alternative to Remus because not only is it cheaper, but I think you get some of those dark brown sugars, those citrus flavors, and it's also higher proof. And did I mention it's cheaper? I think I like Rare Breed over 6 and 7. I'm not sure about 4. 4 would be a good battle, but the 4 and Rare Breed are far enough apart where it's just gonna be like, okay, which one do I prefer that day? However, just flavor-wise in general, 6 and 7 are kind of falling short to both of them. One more sip of 7 here. 7 is just, like I said, I like 7 better than 6. but I don't like it more than 4 or even better than Rare Breed. All right, I think I've kind of made my decision here. Let's break it down. All right, final breakdown for the Remus Chapter 7, Roman numeral 7, whatever you want to call it. Price for this one is $100. Secondary market value or upcharged value that we see out there. You don't really see it too much. I think some folks may try to bring this up to like maybe 125, 150, but you don't really see it too often. So I would say right around there. Availability on these are good. As far as Remus making its way out to more markets in the last few years, I think they've done a much better job of getting these out there. The fact that they proof it down to 100 proof means more bottles for the rest of us. So I'll say the availability is good. So value for this one. So this particular batch for Remus 7, the value I'm gonna say is below average. And the only reason why I say that is because of how thin it is to me on the palate. I think the Rare Breed and some other bottles that would probably go right up against this bring this down a notch when it comes to value, because and you got to remember, there's so much other NGP out there that are being sourced from other companies that for this one to really stand out, it's got to exceed even those single barrels that are out there. I know that's probably really hard to do, but if you're going to make a blend with all these different ages and compete it, you know, against your own product that's being sourced from NDPs and other really good available bourbons that are higher proof, like Rare Breed, I think the value needs to be better, and the bourbon inside the bottle needs to be better as well. Most I pay for this, I would not go over retail for this. That's a pretty easy one. Alternatives, as we just found out, Rare Breed. I think Wild Turkey Rare Breed might be the best alternative to this one because it's available, it's cheaper. There is some, you know, decently older whiskey in Rare Breed. Remember, Rare Breed is batched. It's also got a higher proof point to it. And I don't know, I just think overall it's a better bourbon than Remus 7 is. And lastly, what's the recommendation on this? Is it a skip? Is it a try before you buy? Is it a buy? Is it a buy and back it up? So there's a few sides of the coin we need to look at here. Obviously, anybody that has loved the Remus series, as far as bourbon collectors, you're gonna buy this bottle because you wanna keep your vertical series up, and totally get that. However, if you're on a budget and you're kind of trying to pick and choose which bourbons you're gonna buy, this to me is a skip. Only because I don't think it's good enough in order to exceed, like I said, Rare Breed and some of the other stuff that's available on the shelf. Knob Creek 12 year, Knob Creek single barrel. I just don't think that this has enough this year to really exceed that. Now, if we were talking about Remus 4, that would be like, yeah, pick it up, probably back it up. But when it comes to batches 6 and 7, I think they're, unfortunately, because 4 and then 5 were so good, 6 and 7 to me have been some pretty big drop-offs here, unfortunately. Is it still a really solid bourbon? Yes, but for $100, I think there's some other stuff that you can get on the market right now. It's actually a little bit cheaper and probably has a little bit more bang for your buck. So for me, this year, unfortunately, I'm gonna say skip it. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review for the Remus Repeal number 7. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. If you haven't yet, also find me on Instagram. Let me know if you've had a chance to have this yet, what your opinion is. Again, this is my opinion. It doesn't mean it's gospel. There's a lot of mixed reviews. I know some folks that love this bottle. So, but to me, when you compare it to the other things that I compared it to, and I could probably throw like Four Roses, Small Batch Select in the mix, and maybe some others to go against this, this one just seems to fall short a little bit. So let me know down in the comments what you think. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers. See you next time right here on The Master and Drum. Cheers, folks.